I recognise the Honourable Member Stephen Browning. Tēnā koe.
Kia ora, Mr Speaker. I rise to speak to the Telecommunications Interception Capability and Security Bill. Also, it could be called the Telcos Spying on Kiwis Bill, or the Telcos Let's Get Hacked Bill. And we have to ask, why now? What is the gap in legislation that we need this bill? We questioned in April, when this bill was being mooted, at the timing of that announcement, that the government was to change the government's plans to modernise the Telecommunications Interception Capability Act 2004. We opposed that act then for good reason, and there's been plenty to show up why we should have and why we did since then. Rather than amend that law, it should be reviewed. The Green Party opposed that law because of the great power it gave agencies to spy on New Zealanders' online activity. And of course, when we learn about the 88 people that have been illegally spied on, we may see that this has been an abuse of this, and maybe that's the patch-up that this new bill is about covering up another one of the gaps where the government's clearly been operating illegally. It's very concerning that the changes to this interception capability are being developed at the same time as the government changes the law to allow the GCSB, which is not just New Zealand, it is those other nations, the USA, the main one behind it, the UK, Australia, Canada. So it gives those agencies, the agencies associated with that, to be able to spy on New Zealanders as well. Or is the reason for this change that agencies have yet again been caught outside the law, but also that they, in building the, let's call it the interceptability into the network, that they've actually created weaknesses? Mr Speaker, we think that they have created weaknesses that could be exploited, and they now need to be patched up. But tell us the truth. What is going on here? What is the real reason, or what are the real reasons for this bill coming at the moment, apart from just overall having a total surveillance state in New Zealand? A commission of inquiry is needed, Mr Speaker, for both the GCSB and the telecoms laws, the laws that allow that surveillance and how they're operating. We need a review. We need a full commission of inquiry rather than these piecemeal pieces that the government is putting in. What does this bill open us up to? Well, one, the increased capacity into the security systems will basically allow, as I say, that the national, it's chosen spy mates, it's chosen head of the GCSB, its US mates are getting into us, and as I say, that deeper hacking. Shortly after Parliament passed the 2004 Telecoms Interception Capability Act, there were concerns shown by what we called Greek Watergate. In 2004 and 2005, hackers gained access to Vodafone's Greece's mobile system, and the built-in law enforcement interception capability back then, and they tapped months of calls of more than 100 mobile phones. Well, these days they do it much, much more. But the reason they could do that was using the interceptability put in by the spy agencies. Greek officials believed a foreign intelligence agency was responsible, and the news media, including the BBC and Wall Street Journal at that time, they raised that US intelligence agencies, your mates, as the leading suspects. What we're doing here, we're putting in laws to make it legal for them to spy on us. We don't need to rely on them hacking in anymore, because we're setting up law for them to do it. Not we, the National Party and its buddies. There's another thing happened in 2004 to US wireless company T-Mobile, which resulted in hackers again. They were obtaining candid photos from, in that time, Paris Hilton's sidekick smartphone company. What do they get? 16.3 million customers through that access point, provided for by who? By the law enforcement agencies. For over a year, that hacker had access to all their social security numbers, dates of birth, voicemail pins and passwords to their email accounts. So, what is this? What is this, National? Is this because you've stuffed up? Are you going to make us be even more vulnerable when we go into this? Whose tune are we dancing to, National? Who's in town this week? Lobbying by the FBI, they're in town again this week. The GCSB, it's totally tied in with that. We know that from the past. You guys might laugh at the idea that there's other foreign agencies are part of all this. You just talk to your mate, your boss, John Key, about that, and you'll see.
Order,
you'll know.
order.
Sorry, Mr. Speaker. This is a disgusting abuse of legislative power. It is step by step. There's another aspect in here, of course. Is this a bill to actually screw down the telcos to actually pay even more money in meeting the government's requirements? In the early 2000s, Telecom was charging government agencies nearly $500,000 a year for assisting in search warrants, and Vodafone has set an annual fee of $800,000 to $1 million. The risk, wrote the SIS, was that in future police wouldn't be able to afford all the bugging it wanted to do. Is this the reason for this bill, so that other providers will provide the government free of charge the information that they want? It certainly seems this might be the case. Dean Pemberton, who had been previously set up and run lawful interception equipment at Telstra Clear, told a lot of network specialists a while back that the agencies expected from them that sort of assistance. They said they expected them to install devices that could intercept data and forward it to the agencies. That's what this bill is about. And on a minute-by-minute basis, and if the companies didn't have this...
Order. Members, it's a long-standing convention that people should not conduct conversations in the House unless it's absolutely necessary to do so, and then so as they don't disturb proceedings. And I just ask for some courtesy for the member trying to address the House. There's too much background noise. Honourable Member Stephen Browning.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
It is.
As he pointed out, that the agencies were meant to intercept and forward that data on a minute-by-minute basis. New Zealanders' data on a minute-by-minute basis. If the companies didn't have this gear in place, they risked a $500,000 fine, and he should get a lawyer, he said. And if you try and be wise with them, you'll end up in the High Court within hours, he said. Don't be a fool. Well, of course, the government is not going to make them be a fool, I suppose. It's going to enforce it through this new legislation and force them to spy on their neighbours, to spy on their fellow nationals on the behalf of the spy agencies. Another concern we have with this, Mr. Speaker, is that it's about data retention. The amount of time the spy agencies demand of the telcos to hang on to our private interception not our private interception, our private communications, our telephone calls, our texts, our emails, everything that's going through these systems, that these bills, and there's two bills, there's an ugly twin, as I've said, with the GCSB bill, that these two bills together we'll be able to do. So the Greens will be opposing this. Thank you, Mr Speaker.
I call the honourable member, Mark Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I'd just like to acknowledge Minister Adams for bringing a very good bill to the